John Tortorella was introduced recently as the 17th head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, and he joins me now. John Tortorella, good morning.
How are you, Bill?
I recently referred to your visit as a charm offensive. I take it you knew there were doubters here in this market.
Oh, there's doubters in every market.
A lot of people here remember Mark Crawford, and they used to say about him, there's a summer crow and a winter crow. Can you maintain the cool you put on display during your visit, during the intensity of a season and playoffs?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it's not so much maintaining my cool. It's trying to do things in a better way and trying to forge some relationships. And I take it you're talking about media relations and all that. And yeah, you know, it's my job during the season. It's a very intense time. It's a big part of my coaching style. I think it's a huge positive of how you need to approach things, but you also have to be careful on the other end, and I guess that's what I need to work on. So I'm going to do that, and I'm anxious to get started here.
But the other side of that coin is you've had a lot of success, including winning a Stanley Cup. Do you really think you need to change all that much?
Well, you know, when I was let go from New York, and I think coaches always do, you assess yourself, and it's not about reinventing yourself. I think I need to understand the team that I'm coaching now. I'm beginning to do that. I've done a lot of reading on them. I've asked a lot of questions. It's an older team. I think you need to approach things differently when you're dealing with different players, and you know, I'm going to push hard. I mean, that's how I coach, and a big part of my job is to push athletes, and sometimes they don't like it. Sometimes there's some conflict involved in it. But I think when there's conflict, there's some honesty that starts in front of that. So that's a good thing. So there's no question about it. We're going to try to get people to a different level and try to have them play under a team concept. So that is not going to change with my style.
Most successful coaches adapt to the talent they have. You've had time to assess the talent Vancouver has now. Is there a style and approach that you think needs to change to have success, especially in the playoffs?
Well, I think that's a big part of coaching is understanding the athletes and which buttons to push to get them to be successful. That's the bottom line, is to try to be successful as individuals and then as a team. So I can do all the reading, I can do all the talking, I can do all the tape watching. I want to be in the locker room with them, and that's how you forge relationships. And so that's going to be ongoing as we start camp. Playoff hockey, it's a different level of play, and as I said, I think the biggest thing in playoff hockey that is so magnified are the momentum swings, and not from game to game, from shift to shift, from period to period. And I think that's a huge part of being successful there. And that you know, we're fortunate enough to be there. That's something that we're really going to try to get better at, and trying to keep the momentum on your side and grab it when you don't have it.
Talent. This team is short one center at least. After Henrik Sedin and Ryan Kesler, the talent is thin, and with Manny Malholtra's loss last year, face-offs became a huge issue. Have you talked with Mike Gillis about how to address those needs?
Well, we have talked quite a bit about the middle of our ice with the situation there. Again, I'm just beginning to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the team, the strengths and weaknesses of the individual players. We'll have conversations right on through here. You have free agency coming up here. So certainly we've talked about our team. We've talked about our lineup and how to get better. Every team each year in the draft and free agency is trying to get better, and we're certainly going to be one of them.
Have you talked with Roberto Luongo since the explosive trade news on the weekend?
Yes, I did. I had probably a couple hours after it happened. I had a great conversation with him, and I am going to. I'm in New York now, heading to Florida in the next week or so, and Roberto and I have talked about maybe trying to get together face to face and have some some conversations that way instead of with the phone.
How did you gauge his demeanor when you talked to him? It was reported that he was in a state of shock when he heard the news of the trade.
Well, that conversation, I think I'm not going to go public on how it went and what he was about, and that will stay definitely with him and I. But I will tell you one thing: Roberto Luongo is a hell of a goaltender. I don't know what's happened out there. I'm kind of a new one coming in and seeing this. I watched it from afar last year, and I thought he and Schneid's handled themselves tremendously for a precarious type situation that was going on. But I was on the bench of the U.S. team, and I watched him play in the finals. I watched him in the Olympics. I've watched him in Florida when I was in Tampa. He's a hell of a goaltender, and I can't wait to start working with him, and he's going to be the backbone of our team. And
you're confident that he's going to get his head straight about this and be the pro that he demonstrated he was certainly all of last year?
Yes. I've had conversations with people that know him very well, and that's one thing that is said to me every time we talk about Roberto is that he's a consummate pro, and it's been hard on him. It's been hard on Schneider too. This whole situation, they've handled it very well, but certainly it's difficult. But he's a great goaltender, and I hear he's even a greater person. So I really look forward to working with him.
Talking with John Tortorella, the new head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. We'll be back with more from John Tortorella right after this. Talking with the new head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, John Tortorella. John, you talked about bite, about stiffness. Is that something you coach, or do you have to have players who instinctively bring that?
Well, no, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that's the mental part of the game. That's the most intriguing part of the game to me is in the head. Are you willing to push yourself to get to another level in all areas of the game? Do you need some help being pushed there? Those are the type of things that there's no concrete way of doing it. It's a matter of experience it. It's a matter of relationships. I'm trying to understand the player, how to do it with them. But I believe that's to play that way. It's the way to be successful. And everybody talks about offense and creativity, and which is really a God-given talent. It's very tough to teach creativity. I think there's some of that with our team, but I also think there needs to be some sort of sustainability as far as how hard you have to play on the boards, how you protect the puck, how you bring pucks to the net. Those are things that could be taught, and that's a mental attitude. And that's something that is certainly going to be a big focus of mine.
I'm curious to know how you handle a player like Ryan Kesler, who I know you have had some experience with. If there is a criticism of Ryan Kesler here, it's that he maybe have too much bite, too much stiffness, and has a tendency to hurt himself by being too intense, if it's possible to be that. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that. Not certainly about Ryan Kesler, about as far as being too intense to get hurt. I think sometimes when you get hurt, you're a little bit too careful. And so Kesler's a guy that I've had for short periods of time in World Championships and the Olympics. He is certainly going to have to be a big piece here if we want to get where we want to be. So as far as how I'm going to coach him, I just haven't been with him enough, Bill, to understand him as a person and what is best to get him to another level. And I think that's all going to come into play as we sit in the locker room, we go through practices, we go through games and exhibition season and find out what we're all about and get to know one another. So, but he's a hell of a player, and I'm certainly looking forward to working with him.
I suspect you're also looking forward to bringing along a young player like Zach Kassian, who has demonstrated an enormous amount of potential, but hasn't yet become consistent.
Yeah, he's an interesting one to me. I watched him a little bit in Buffalo. Haven't seen him play a whole bunch other than just on tape. But he's interesting because, there's that word, potential, and that's a very dangerous word. And we want to try to get that word potential out of the equation and have it getting it done. And Zach is a guy that's a guy really, there's a number of them, especially the youth, that we're really interested in trying to bring in forth here, because I really believe the team does need some more kids involved in this. So he's a real interesting one, and I'm really anxious to get him on the ice and, again, meet him and have each other figure one another out here as we try to find a way.
Are you starting to feel that this is your team?
No, it's hard for me right now because I'm still a newcomer. I'm learning. I've met a handful of players. I'll talk with them over the summer on the phone, but to be part of the team and for, I guess, it to be the new coaching staff's team, we've got to go through camp and exhibition and put our stamp on it, I guess, as far as how we want to play and develop an identity that way. I think as that goes through in a month or two, as the season gets going, that's when it starts becoming that. And I hate saying it's my team. I think it's our team. I think it's their team. We need to get everybody to understand what the identity is, and I think that's important, is to have an identity as a club. And we're going to push that upon them and see if we can develop that.
One of the things that has puzzled me over the years is having the Sedins play what I would call limited ice time, given their stature and their talent. And I heard you when you were in town a week or two ago talking about playing them more, killing penalties. Is that something you're determined to do?
Yes, I am. I'm not sure what their ice time was with Elaine along the way here, but it's one of the things that I want to improve at. That I think in the past few years I've gotten away a little bit from using my top players killing penalties. I want to get back to that with the Sedins. I want to keep them on the ice. I want to get them on the ice. So they're going to get their time with obviously the power play, penalty killing. We want them to do it. They're going to get the opportunity. They've got to show me a two-way street here that they're willing to do the things to kill penalties too. So, and I think they are. And I've talked to Henrik face to face. I've heard great things about these two players. And when your two best players are being told to me that they're the hardest workers on the team, that's a pretty good thing to have starting in here. And so I'm anxious to see them play and get to know them.
Your family spent time here during the Olympics. You didn't have much time to be a tourist, but did your wife?
Yes, my wife and two kids, they loved it. And, I mean, how can't you? It's such a beautiful area. The people were great. They were actually out in the streets with their USA garb on when we lost in the finals. No incidents at all. They said the people were fantastic. And they loved it. My kids loved it. They thought it was probably one of the greatest experience they've had. They thought the people were wholesome, nice, competitive as far as what they wanted to do, but they had a blast.
How old are your kids?
My daughter is 26, a school teacher in Long Island here, and my son Nick is 8 months into the Army, and he is trying to become a special operations ranger. He's getting the hell kicked out of him every day as we speak.
So they won't be coming with you?
They will not be coming. They certainly will be visiting. It'll just be my wife and I and our 4 dogs.
Yeah, your 4 dogs. I thought that was a fun part of learning more about John Tortorella.
Yeah, we're dead serious about it as far as animal welfare, and and you know, like I said, I could talk about that all day long because it's there are so many things that need to be done there to try to help the animals.
Now, I understand you like to be plugged into the community as much as you can. Do you expect your players to be as well?
Yes, I think that the way I look at it, and I've been so fortunate when you're front and center of the organization. A lot of doors open up to you towards things that other people couldn't get to, and that's in charitable causes too. That's in with families that are struggling, kids that are struggling, and it's not just the person, it's the position. It's a public position as a player, as a coach, whatever it may be. and you get involved in these things, and it's probably one of the most rewarding things that come with the job. And we are still locked into things in Tampa. When we were down there, we're certainly going to stay up to speed with our things here in New York. And our family foundation is really looking forward to partner up with the Canucks and try to find our niche as far as helping out there too. And not just with the animal welfare, but there are a number of things that our family foundation wants to get involved with, and that's certainly a big part of it.
When do you make the permanent move? When will we see you here on a full-time basis?
It will probably be middle August, third week of August. I still have to. It's a pretty big move, East Coast to West Coast, and we're trying to get ourselves situated here. We just finished building a house here in Connecticut, and figure we're going to be staying here, and that's usually the kiss of death, and that's what happened. So there's a lot of things up in the air out here. And but we're really looking forward to get there and be part of the community.
Well, when you do, I hope you'll come in studio and spend some time and take some calls from the audience. It's a great audience, and they're all serious Canuck fans. So good to talk to you today. Thanks for doing this, and we'll look forward to seeing you here in Vancouver.
My pleasure, Bill. Thank you, and have a great day.
John Tortorella, the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Well, it's been a tumultuous time. A new head coach. A trade that saw Corey Schneider heading to New Jersey over the weekend. Roberto Luongo having to get used to the idea of being a number one goaltender again here in Vancouver. You heard John Tortorella say he has talked to him. The conversation was private, but it sounds like Mr. Tortorella is confident that Roberto will be the consummate pro and come back and give it his all here. But I'm going to take a few minutes to take your calls, 604-280-9898. I'm curious at your reaction to the Schneider trade, Luongo situation, and what you have heard so far from John Tortorella, the new coach of the Vancouver Canucks. You're with Bill Good on the Chorus Radio Network on CKNW News Talk 980. My phones are open to you, 604-280-9898.